There comes a moment in life when we stop asking God for more and begin to realize that He has already given us everything we need. We spend years praying for strength, wisdom, courage, provid direction, not knowing that these very things are already inside us, placed there by God long before we recognize their value. God does not always give new blessings. Often He reveals hidden ones. Many people live frustrated lives not because they lack ability, but because they are unaware of what they carry. God's work is not always about addition. It is about revelation. When God opens your eyes, you discover that what you've been praying for has been within you all along. The delay was never God. The delay was your awareness. Throughout Scripture and life, God consistently works with what people already have. Moses had a rod. David had a sling. The widow had oil. The disciples had loaves and fish. God did not wait for something new. He revealed the power of what was already present. The same God is at work in your life today. God never waits for a crisis to decide what to give you. Long before the challenge appears, long before the assignment is announced, and long before the season shifts, God has already made a deposit inside you. He plants purpose in advance. He places strength in you before you ever feel weak. He builds endurance in you before the road becomes long. Nothing in your life has caught God by surprise, and nothing you are facing now arrived without preparation already placed within you. Many people assume that God reacts to situations, but God is always proactive. He prepares you quietly, often invisibly, while you are living ordinary days. In seasons that feel uneventful, God is embedding wisdom. In moments that feel painful, God is strengthening your inner core. Even when you think nothing is happening, God is working beneath the surface, planning what will be needed later. This is why some pressure feels overwhelming at first, because you have not yet recognized what God already placed inside you. The revelation comes after the planting. Just like a seed buried in the ground, what God plants is hidden for a time. You don't see immediately, but that does not mean it is absent. It is growing, developing, and preparing to emerge at the right moment. God's timing is intentional. If He revealed everything too early, you would rely on pride instead of faith. If He revealed it too late, you might lose hope. So God allows seasons where you feel underqualified, not to embarrass you, but to teach you dependence on Him. Then, when the moment is right, He opens your eyes to see what has been there all along. Every trial you encounter is proof that God has already trusted you with the capacity to endure it. He would not allow the assignment if the anointing had not already been planted. He would not permit the responsibility if the strength had not already been deposited. Revelation is simply God reminding you of what He finished before you ever began. Many people believe they are lacking because they don't have enough money, connections, education, or support. But more often than not, the real issue is not what is missing from their hands, it is what is missing from their sight. God knows that before He changes your situation, He must first change your vision. Until your eyes are open, you can stand surrounded by provision and still feel empty. Lack is frequently a misunderstanding of what God has already provided. You may call it scarcity, but God calls it untapped potential. You may call it limitation, but God calls it misalignment. When vision is blurred, even abundance feels like shortage. That is why two people can have access to the same resources, yet one thrives while the other struggles. The difference is perspective. God reveals provision by correcting how you see. When your vision shifts, what once looked small becomes sufficient. What once felt insignificant becomes valuable. What once seemed ordinary becomes powerful. The moment God opens your eyes, you realize that what you have been overlooking is exactly what He intends to use. This is why God often asks questions instead of giving answers. He asked Moses, "What is in your hand?" Not because God didn't know, but because Moses needed to see it differently. The staff did not change. Moses' vision did. When God reveals your vision, the resource you already possess gains new meaning and new authority. Many prayers for more are actually invitations for clearer sight. God is not withholding blessings. He is waiting for you to recognize them. Once your vision aligns with God's perspective, lack loses its power and gratitude unlocks movement. What you see determines how you use what you have, and how you use what you have determines what God reveals next. Most people spend their lives searching outward for solutions, waiting for someone else to tell them what to do, or hoping for a sign that will magically remove all uncertainty. Yet God often placed the answers within us long before the questions become urgent. The struggle is not the absence of answers. It is the lack of confidence to trust what God has already placed inside your spirit. God communicates in more ways than dramatic moments or loud revelations. He speaks through wisdom, discernment, intuition, experience, and inner conviction. These are not random feelings. They are tools God has already given you. When you feel a strong sense of direction, a check in your spirit, or an unexplainable peace about a decision that is not coincidence, that is God reminding you of the answers He has already embedded within you. Many people doubt themselves because they think hearing God always means hearing something new. But often, hearing God means remembering what He has already shown you. The reason certain truths keep returning to your heart is because God has already answered, and He is waiting for you to act on what you know. Revelation does not always bring new information. Sometimes it brings confirmation. Life experiences are also carriers of answers. Every lesson you learn through failure, every insight gained through hardship, and every strength developed through endurance has equipped you with understanding. God never wastes experiences. What you've been through has sharpened your judgment and refined your awareness, preparing you to recognize solutions when they appear. When God reveals what you already have, you begin to trust your discernment. You stop second guessing every step. You realize that the wisdom you've been asking for has been growing quietly inside you, waiting for courage to bring it to the surface. God has never been impressed by what people don't have. He has always moved through what is already available. While humans focus on shortages, God focuses on supply. When God steps into a situation, He does not ask for what is missing. He asks for what is present. The miracle begins the moment you recognize and surrender what is already in your possession. Many people delay obedience because they believe they need more confidence, more money, more clarity, more preparation. But God does not wait for perfection. He works with willingness. What you call small, God calls usable. What you dismiss as insignificant, God sees as a starting point. The size of what you have does not limit God's power. Your faith in it does. Throughout life, God repeatedly uses ordinary things to produce extraordinary outcomes. A simple skill, a basic idea, a limited resource, when placed in God's hands, becomes more than enough. God multiplies what is offered, not what is withheld. When you hold back because you think it's not enough, you block the very process God intends to use to increase it. This principle challenges pride and excuses at the same time. Pride says, I need more before I start. Excuses say, I don't have enough to begin. God confronts both by saying, give me what you have. The moment you release what is in your hand, God releases what is in His power. What you already possess is not random. It is intentionally aligned with your calling. God gave you what you have because it is connected to where He is leading you. When you trust God with what is available, He transforms the ordinary into a doorway for purpose and progress. Just because a gift is hidden does not mean it is weak. Many of the most powerful things God places inside a person are not immediately visible to others, or even to the person carrying them. Hidden gifts develop in silence. They mature in obscurity. They grow in seasons where no one is clapping, no one is affirming, and no one is noticing. But their invisibility does not cancel their strength. God often hides gifts for protection, not punishment. If certain abilities were exposed too early, pride, Fear or opposition could damage what is still developing. So God allows your gifts to remain unseen while He refines your character, sharpens your discipline, and builds your endurance. What looks like delay is actually preparation. Many people underestimate themselves because their gifts don't fit traditional expectations or immediate success. But God's gifts are not always loud or obvious. Some gifts are discernment, patience, leadership, creativity, wisdom, resilience, or the ability to influence quietly. These gifts may not draw instant attention, but they carry lasting impact when God brings them into the light. Hidden gifts are also activated by timing. God does not reveal everything at once because revelation without readiness can become a burden. When the season aligns with the assignment, God uncovers what was concealed. Suddenly, what felt ordinary becomes essential, and what felt overlooked becomes central. The power of a hidden gift is not determined by recognition, but by purpose. When God reveals what was hidden, it moves with authority because it has been seasoned by time, faith, and obedience. Delay is one of the most understood tools God uses. Many people interpret waiting as denial, silence as absent, and slowness as neglect. But in God's process, delay is never wasted time. It is a season designed to sharpen your awareness, deepening and mature your perception of what you already carry. When everything happens quickly, you rely on excitement. When things take time, you develop discernment. Delay forces you to reflect, evaluate, and pay attention to what God is doing within you instead of constantly demanding what He should do around you. In waiting seasons, God strips away distractions so you can finally notice the strength, wisdom, and endurance He has already built inside you. Delay also exposes false dependencies. When external support fades and quick solutions disappear, you begin to discover inner resources you didn't know existed. Patience grows. Faith stretches. Emotional resilience strengthens. These qualities are not added during delay, they are revealed. God uses time to uncover what pressure alone cannot. Many people only recognize their capacity when they are forced to endure longer than expected. You learn how to stand when relief doesn't come immediately. You learn how to trust when answers are unclear. In that process, your awareness expands. You stop underestimating yourself and start acknowledging the grace that has been sustaining you all along. God allows delay not to frustrate you, but to prepare you to handle what is coming. Awareness precedes responsibility. Once you truly see what you carry, you are ready to steward it wisely. And fear is one of the greatest thieves of revelation. It does not remove what God has placed inside you, but it convinces you to ignore it, doubt it, or bury it. Fear distorts perception. It magnifies risks, exaggerates weaknesses, and minimizes God's investment in your life. When fear dominates your thinking, you become blind to the very strength God has already given you. God never plants fear alongside purpose. Fear enters when you focus more on outcomes than obedience, more on opinions than calling, and more on failure than faith. It whispers that you are not ready, not capable, or not enough, even when God has already equipped you. The tragedy of fear is not that it creates limitation, but that it hides existing capacity. Many people assume they are weak because they feel afraid, but fear does not indicate absence of strength. It often signals proximity to growth. The reason fear shows up is because something valuable is inside you. A fear recognizes potential before you do and tries to silence it before it can be revealed. When God begins to reveal what you carry, fear loses its authority. Revelation replaces intimidation with clarity. You start to see evidence of God's work in your past, His faithfulness in your survival, and His presence in your endurance. Fear cannot survive where truth is fully seen. The moment you confront fear with faith, what was hidden begins to surface. Courage does not mean fear disappears. It means fear no longer controls your vision of what God has already placed within you. Comparison is a subtle but powerful distraction that keeps people from seeing what God has uniquely placed within them. When you measure your life against someone else's progress, gifts, or success, your focus shifts away from your own calling. God's revelation is personal, but comparison forces you to evaluate yourself, using someone else's assignment, making your own gift seem inadequate or invisible. God never intended for you to discover your purpose by watching others. What He placed in you was designed to function differently, grow differently, and manifest in its own time. When you compare, you overlook the value of your journey, because it doesn't look like theirs. You begin to ignore the tools God gave you because they don't match what someone else is using. Comparison also creates impatience. You start questioning God's timing, wondering why others seem ahead while you feel delayed. But revelation is not about speed, it's about readiness. God reveals what you already have when your heart is prepared to steward it, not when someone else reaches a milestone. When you stop comparing, clarity returns. You begin to recognize patterns in your own life, strengths that keep showing up, lessons that keep repeating, doors that keep opening. These are clues God uses to reveal your calling. Comparison blinds you to these signals, but humility restores your vision. The moment you release the need to compete, God restores the ability to see. Revelation flows when you honor your own process and trust that what God placed in you does not need to resemble anyone else's to be powerful. Revelation is often unlocked not by understanding everything, but by obeying what you already know. God rarely reveals the full picture at once. Instead, He gives just enough instruction to require faith. Obedience becomes the doorway through which deeper revelation flows. When you move on what God has already shown you, He reveals more of what He has already placed within you. Many people wait for clarity before they act, but God often waits for action before He brings clarity. Obedience proves trust. It says, I believe what you placed in me is enough for this step. Each act of obedience strengthens your awareness of God's voice and increases your confidence in the gifts He has given you. God reveals through movement. As you take steps, even small ones, your capacity becomes clearer, skills sharpen, wisdom deepens, strength becomes evident. What felt uncertain while standing still becomes obvious while walking forward. Obedience activates dormant potential and turns belief into experience. Disobedience, on the other hand, keeps revelation stalled, not because God withholds, but because refusal to act blocks growth. You cannot discover what you carry if you never use it. God designed revelation to follow faith in motion, not faith in theory. Every step of obedience is an invitation for God to uncover more. As you respond to what He has already revealed, He continues to unfold what was hidden, building confidence through experience and trust through action. Pressure is not a punishment, it is a catalyst. God often allows difficult circumstances, challenges, and unexpected responsibilities to test the potential He has already placed inside you. Without pressure, your hidden abilities might remain dormant, unnoticed, or underdeveloped. It is in the heat of trials that the true measure of what you carry is revealed. Many people see pressure as a sign that they are failing or unprepared, but in reality, pressure is proof that God trusts you with more than you realize. Like diamonds, which only reveal their brilliance under intense heat and pressure, your potential shines brightest when circumstances demand it. Every challenge is an opportunity for God to demonstrate that what you already have is sufficient. Pressure also eliminates excuses. When the weight of life increases, you are forced to dig deeper, to rely on skills, wisdom, and courage that you may have ignored. What once seemed small or inadequate becomes vital. Hidden strengths emerge, talents that you underestimated come alive, and resilience that you never knew you had surfaces. Furthermore, pressure reveals character. It shows whether your faith is theoretical or practical, whether your patience is genuine, and whether your persistence is rooted in belief or convenience. God uses these moments to expose the treasures He has already placed within you: strength, endurance, creativity, and faith, all waiting to be activated. Finally, pressure refines focus. When everything feels overwhelming, distractions fall away, priorities become clear, and you are able to see what really matters. In the midst of tension, God illuminates the capabilities He has embedded within you, making the hidden visible and the dormant active. The very things you feared would not be enough under pressure often become exactly what is needed to triumph. Your past is not a collection of random events or meaningless experiences. It is the workshop where God has been preparing you for your present and future. Every trial, every disappointment, every victory, and even every failure has been a deliberate part of your preparation. The lessons you learned, the wisdom you gained, and the resilience you developed were all deposited inside you to be revealed when the right season arrives. Many people look back at their past and see mistakes, missed opportunities, or seasons of hardship and assume they are unqualified for what lies ahead. But God does not see your past as a liability. He sees it as a reservoir of experience that has shaped your character and strengthened your spirit. Each challenge you endured, each obstacle you overcame, has equipped you with tools that are now essential for the assignment God has for you. Even moments that felt like failure were not wasted. They taught you patience, discernment, humility, and perseverance. They exposed weaknesses so you could develop strength. They tested faith so it could grow deeper roots. What once felt like suffering was actually a classroom where God was teaching lessons you would later rely on. Your past also gives you credibility. The struggles you have walked through allow you to minister, to lead, or inspire others in ways that only someone with your unique experience could. God's revelation often connects what He placed inside you with what you have lived through. The very experiences that seemed painful or pointless become proof that you already carry exactly what is needed. When God begins to reveal what you already have, you start to understand that every season of your life was intentional. Nothing was wasted, nothing was random, and nothing was accidental. Your past, with all its highs and lows, has been preparing the gifts, insights, and strength within you to emerge fully in this moment. True confidence is not built on appearances, external approval, or comparisons with others. It is built on revelation. When God reveals what you already carry, your confidence shifts from uncertainty to assurance. You begin to understand that the strength, wisdom, and resources you need have already been placed inside you. And this awareness produces a deep, unshakable confidence that no circumstance can destroy. Many people struggle with self-doubt because they are trying to function in the dark. They rely on temporary signs, fleeting encouragement, or external validation to feel capable. But God's revelation shines a light on what has been dormant inside, showing you that you are equipped for the task. When the hidden becomes visible, fear and hesitation lose their grip, and confidence rises naturally. Confidence through revelation is different from pride. Pride pretends to have what it does not, while revelation confirms what is already true. When God opens your eyes to the gifts, talents, and potential you have possessed all along, you no longer need to fake strength. You walk with genuine assurance. Every step you take is backed by the knowledge that God has prepared you for this exact moment. This revelation-based confidence also empowers decision-making. When you know what God has placed inside you, you make choices with clarity, not confusion. You act with authority, not apology. You speak with conviction, not hesitation. Confidence rooted in revelation allows you to step into responsibilities, challenges, and opportunities without fear because you recognize that God has equipped you sufficiently for what lies ahead. Moreover, confidence multiplies when it is exercised. The more you trust what God has already given you, the more revelation unfolds. Each successful step, each small victory, each confirmation of God's faithfulness strengthens your self-belief. In essence, revelation not only uncovers your potential, it trains you to trust it fully and to walk boldly in the authority God has already placed within you. Too often, people wait for approval, recognition, or validation before stepping into the calling God has placed on their lives. They think they need someone else to say hi, to give them permission, or to confirm that they are ready. But God never intended for your purpose to be dependent on human endorsement. The moment God reveals what you already carry, you realize that no one's permission is necessary. You are already equipped and authorized from the beginning. Walking in purpose begins with recognizing that God is your ultimate authority. While encouragement and mentorship can guide you, they do not determine your calling. Your worth, ability, and readiness are not defined by external approval, but by the gifts, talents, and insights God has already placed inside you. Waiting for permission only delays the fulfillment of what God has already prepared. Many people underestimate their potential because they rely too heavily on others to validate them. They fear making mistakes or being misunderstood, so they remain passive. But God's revelation removes that dependency. When you see clearly what He has placed inside you, you understand that your calling is legitimate, even if no one else affirms it. Confidence in God's authorization empowers you to act without hesitation. Moreover, waiting for permission often blinds you to opportunities that are already present. God does not wait for the world to agree with His plan. He moves through those willing to step forward in faith. What you carry is sufficient to begin, and every step you take in obedience opens doors and attracts resources that confirm you are on the right path. Finally, walking without waiting for permission cultivates courage and an independence. You learn to trust your own discernment guided by God. You become proactive instead of reactive. And most importantly, you begin to fulfill your purpose without unnecessary delay, realizing that your authority comes not from people, but from the one who placed the gifts, the calling, and the potential inside you. As we come to the close of this message, I want you to hear this clearly. God has already placed everything you need inside you. Every gift, every skill, every ounce of wisdom, courage, and resilience, you already carry it. The problem has never been a lack of ability. The problem has always been a lack of awareness. God does not always give us something new. Sometimes He simply reveals what we've been carrying all along. He allows seasons of waiting, trials, pressure, and even fear, not to punish us, but to prepare us, to mature us, and to awaken us to the power within. The gifts that feel hidden, the strength that feels dormant, the courage that feels unavailable, they are all there. They have been there, and to God is ready to open your eyes to see them. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You don't need permission to step into your purpose. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment or for someone else to validate you. What God has placed inside you is sufficient. Every challenge you face, every moment of doubt, every season of delay, all of it is designed to reveal who you already are in Him. So I challenge you today, look within, trust what God has given, and act in faith. Stop underestimating yourself. Stop waiting for circumstances to make you ready. Walk bold knowing that God has already equipped you for your assignment. What you need has already been planted, and now it is time to let it flourish. Remember, the treasures God has placed in you are not random. They are intentional. They are sufficient. They are powerful. And when you finally embrace what God has revealed, there is no limit to what you can achieve, no obstacle too great, and no calling too big.